Hmm.
Okay,
What?
Betty was influenced by drunken boats. Go ahead.
Yeah, because Le Bateau Ivre, if you look up the Bateau Ivre, it is a signature poem of, it's like Rembrandt's Night Watchman. There are just some things that typify a painter. So I was overwhelmed with the drunken boat theme that meshes with the movement. But I did like that poem after I had read it 3 times.
Oh, nice. And what did you like about it besides what you said? Anything else?
Well, yeah, he was a free spirit, and I loved what he did with what free spirits feel about, well, not just movement, but in this case, it is movement. You know that Rimbaud was accused
Bless
of
you.
shooting.
Thank you.
He was accused of shooting his lover, who is that other poet? I cannot remember.
Verlaine.
Thank you, Verlaine. And so he was a bit of an outlaw, at the very least.
Good.
I wound up, I simply input, I took the poem, I couldn't get to Claude and Grok and all these things that David said, check them out. I'm working on it. So I just took the first poem. What was the first one? There was Mouvement Marine.
Yeah.
I just took that and dumped it into Google. And what I got was a very nice essay by some person who gave a very coherent, thoughtful, account about it. And I was taken back to all of them: Verlaine, Mallarmé, Baudelaire, and Rimbaud. And I'd forgotten about that. That was part
Good.
of my education a million years ago. And I said, "Oh, those guys." I
Yeah.
knew. I
Those
didn't
guys.
know.
You had a
I
good
didn't.
education. That's great.
I I didn't know squat about them, because my cruise through French was very sporadic and superficial.
Oh, I think
Um,
you got a lot of it still in you.
um, Thank you. uh, but having been forced, compelled, urged, prompted, whatever it is, to try to decipher this, very convoluted and very metaphorical and entangled, whatever you're going to talk about it, and just the realization that this mindset, which preceded, as far as I know, surrealism, was
Mhm.
later, at least to
Yep.
me. It was
Yeah.
in the 90s, and I don't know this domain very
Yeah.
well. Um, but that you had this marvelous, crazy language by this crazy elder homosexual, I think he was, and Verlaine was much younger, and they were in England, and no, you can't live a life like that. And when you're just talking a while ago, Betty, about the French and the Americans,
Yes.
can any American get in tune with the French? Um, I like to think that I can.
Hmm.
I'm very American. I'm very much like, I'm sure your relatives in Chicago. I was born and bred that way. But early on, I was being attracted to weirdness. Um,
Okay. Mm.
and it was, I said, "Oh, I can't go here because people are going to think I'm weird and strange." It was a song by the Doors. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, do 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 do, and there's this L.A. rock group. And so where was Jim? What's his name? Where was Jim Barrett? He's in a Parisian cemetery somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
You know,
Jim,
he died in a French, a bathroom of a French bar.
I
He was,
didn't.
yeah,
I
Oh,
yeah,
he was stoned all the time, drunk. They
yeah,
found him on the floor, a little bit like Elvis Presley, except that Elvis was
yeah.
taking uh, ordinary drugs and probably not trying to be stoned, but they both uh, met their end in a bathroom.
Yeah.
whoa.
Um,
Wow.
and and that makes me wonder about Rimbaud and the aforementioned poets. I wonder what their end was all like. I get the
Mm.
feeling that none of them lived to an old age. Mallarmé and
Yeah,
any of them, I don't know.
that was never the goal.
Oh,
It was to, and that was, why can't I think of his senior moment? The
I have a lot of,
band leader of the Doors, Jim, I
Oh,
want to say
Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
Uh, it was, that group, and there were many of them, were very much into the whole psychedelic reality. That whole time in our history
Yeah.
was
yeah,
very,
yeah,
surrealistic.
Flower
And
Child.
I I loved it. I loved it all without ever quite understanding it because I was so in all the flights of out of reality. Um,
Yeah.
shoot, the word
Well,
shoot, you know?
well, Paul, what you're saying is very much what was happening to Rimbaud. He was an outsider, an outlaw, a rebel, and when David chose his poem, I remember thinking, we've got to remember that this guy wasn't your run-of-the-mill poet. You know,
Nope.
he's he was criticized by a lot of French people for being an unsavory character, but then
Yeah,
back then being
mm.
homosexual was enough. Mm.
yeah.
Well, who was
He
he?
was.
There was a painter who cultivated, I forgot, the name, but there was a painter who deliberately cultivated the image of an unsavory character. He really wasn't, and he wasn't poor, but he
Oh,
played
Toulouse,
that role.
Toulouse-Lautrec.
well, I was
What?
thinking that. Is that
I
the
think
one?
it was somebody else.
I think I think you might be thinking of Baudelaire, who wrote a book that was called, bon, Les Fleurs du Mal, The Flowers of Evil. It sounded
Uh-huh.
like he wanted to position himself as bad boy.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
Marquis, the Marquis.
but it was more like a publicity,
Yeah.
role, where it's like a crafted image.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he wanted to just appear that way or if he wanted to provoke society to consider that kind of, well, he was a romantic poet because he brought out what was evil in society and all of us. It wasn't a social ill thing, it's people deviate, and
All
deviants were the fashion.
right. Okay, let me ask some questions here.
Yeah.
So, the assignment was to take the poem and put it into AI and play with AI and see what distortions or insights or hallucinations you got about the poem.
Yeah.
Which AIs were more true to the poem and which were kind of ridiculous summations or elevator
Well,
Yeah.
pitches.
can I ask a question?
You can ask
Mhm.
if you want.
And that is, um, here is an impression I have gotten from somewhat from you, David, and from elsewhere. And that is all of these AIs, all these
Yeah,
versions.
7.
Okay. All these versions have and this is a generalization that I think is probably wrong, but maybe is close. All of these varieties of AI suffer from their dependence on the written word, the painted image,
Yeah.
on anything that can be digitally saved and recorded. So the database, can I use that word, when the AI goes searching for something,
Yeah, they call it
um,
libraries.
right?
Yeah.
No AI is trained to read books.
Well, one
In
is.
other words,
One is. One of the 7 is. In fact, 2
when
of the
and
7 do pretty good at it. 5 are not trained
okay,
in
and
their program.
I went through them. And the two are, one of them is Anthropic or whatever their thing is called.
That's true. Yeah.
Anthropic. In other words, that robot reads books in addition to simply
It's
having
trained as part of its programming to read. It's read mass quantities of philosophy and ethics. Yeah, poetry.
Okay, you know what I know about a human being, the three of you and myself. Well, we have read a lot of books. We have read a lot of stuff over a lifetime. And whatever we have read somehow is part of our baggage, the resource that we mine when we need to find out something or do something. And the trouble, quotation marks, again, I'm inventing this one, the trouble with AI is that, quote, they don't read books. All they have to work on is what humans in the last, and this I don't know, humans in the last 10, 15, 20, 30, or I don't know. Whatever has been,
You're close. Like Elon Musk has his AI reading X, Twitter,
yeah,
all social media. So what you get from that is a more social media oriented response to stuff. It can go
yeah,
and query things as well, but it's just not set up that way. Google, um, with Zuckerberg founding Facebook, all that money is going into AI to do these algorithms. Like if you do an
yeah,
airline ticket or rent a car, rent a beach house, you ever notice the price goes up when you're looking at it? You can thank Zuckerberg for that. Um, and we do a Google search. Anyway, so there's different ones. Now the French one is pretty good because it's a sovereignty model. So it's supposed to be owned by the people. So it's a very different approach than the billionaires model for AIs. Uh,
Oh.
and some of all of the American AIs except for Anthropic have signed with the Pentagon that they do autonomous drones. In other words, non-human propelled drones and missiles in wars are being fired by
yeah.
these AI. So if you sign up if you're using Facebook, that's financing Zuckerberg's whole deal, which is on board with the war machine. So you get more war, more Facebook, more war. And with
Wow.
Elon Musk, the same thing. So I kind of wanted to just find out what you all thought of AI, like dismiss all of it. I hear you, Paul, saying, well, it's all doing this, it's all doing that.
Yeah,
And I've
David,
got,
I had
I've
a different.
gotten out of
Yeah,
it. I get no Gmail, no Google, no Chat GPT. That's the worst of the worst. Yeah, Betty, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, oh, I simply had, this is an admission, I had the problem that because the poem itself was so subject to interpretation, that I was unable to fault any one interpretation by artificial intelligence, which is
Oh,
why I started looking into his Bateau Ivre, the drunken boat. And my idea was that it inspired me. One of them inspired me especially, just ChatGPT that I know really well. Um, it gave me ideas as to what direction I could go in. So I was sort of uh, betraying what you ask us to do.
oh,
Uh,
okay.
I
I don't want
couldn't go,
to do
I couldn't talk about hallucination.
Yeah. Like the one quote, like I did a presentation for uh, Kenneth Jorgensen in Sweden today, and Jens was there, Jens
Ah,
Larsen, and Duncan was there presenting before me. So Duncan presented, and then I presented in Sweden, you know, and So I presented on some of the stuff I talked about last week with you all, the 7 AIs, but I went into a little bit more because I'm telling, I don't know if you want me to go into this a little bit or not, but Ed Breeding told me he's a star child, that he's what's called, and I'm reading one of his books he brought me to the party where Sabine was. And I don't think I mentioned, did I, that he had PTSD so bad that I had to take him into because let me see if my sound is causing trouble. Because I hear a kind of a.
Like an echo.
Yeah, we hear an echo.
I don't.
Let me try this one. Does that sound okay? We're still echoing. Yeah, well,
I am not. I have no
It,
echo.
and
Let
it
me.
comes and goes for me. So right now it is
Yeah,
gone.
same here, Betty. I mean, I think it's not bad
Yeah.
enough. I mean, I think we can ignore
Yeah.
it.
Is
Yeah,
that
I
better?
could understand you. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Ed Breeding says that he's a Palladian. So do you know what that is, a Palladian?
From
No.
the Pleiades.
Yeah, the Pleiades
From
constellation,
he's
which
a yes.
where I am is in the northeast part of the sky at 3 in the
Yeah,
morning. You can
the
see
Seven
Okay.
them.
Sisters. Yeah,
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
these Palladian planets have been, they're called the Seven Sisters in many places.
yeah,
They've been a subject of mythologies in ancient Greece, um, several Native American tribes around the world, China, Japan. So there's people that call themselves the Star Child, and they say that there's millions of people on planet Earth, alien. So Ed Breeding said he's an alien, and he's part of the Palladians, and they're beings of light from the star cluster of the Pleiades, a group of stars with great importance in mythology and astronomy. And his chapter in this book goes through the whole thing. So I kind of presented some of that at the end, not at the beginning. I sort of just went through the AI entrepreneurs and what I thought was going on. But anyway,
well, Ken,
I mean,
I
you
came
meet
up
somebody
with
that's an alien. How often has that ever happened to you? That's question one. And then the next day I met another one at the barn, and she said that her and her daughter were whisked up, and they don't have any memory of it. Came back down, but she said she believes in the Palladians and that there's billions of them on the Earth, and they're here to prepare humankind for the transition, from war to peace. Basically, that's it. Go ahead, Paul.
a simple reaction to our assignment, or to what Betty was saying earlier. I don't know if this is visible.
No, it's
AI,
not. AI something.
okay, I'm sorry.
You
Can
can
you
read
read
it.
it to us?
AI without thinking is dangerous, comma. Thinking without AI is slow.
Slow, slow but good.
And if I were to summarize in a nutshell my own stance right now, heavily influenced on the one hand by Ken Long,
Yeah.
okay, whose view of AI is his own personal stance is I will not dismiss it, run from it, ignore it, and see it as inherently evil on the one hand. Then on the other hand, a thoughtful, prudent, in-depth consideration of it is necessary. The only way that AI can be, this is me making a foolhardy generalization, the only way that AI can be kept human is if humans continue to interact with it,
Mm.
and this is another comma, if humans continue to interact with it, and this is a large order, in such a way that it was Isaac Asimov in the 40s,
Yeah, my
who programmed the 3 laws of robotics into any computer. And whenever he came up with that, I read the book in 1952 or 3 or 4. I had no idea what it was about. The 3 laws of robotics. He back then was saying computers, and this is nothing new. It's in science. It's been around for a long time in mythology and everywhere. That the creatures that we make, David and the butterfly, David in his workshop, David with his metalworking skill and prowess, can make many things. And the trouble with us, and this was expressed by Elizabeth Bridges, if anybody remembers her.
I remember.
Okay, Elizabeth Bridges was a poet, a woman who lives in Grass Valley, somewhere in a place in California that I'm aware of. She read a bunch of poems during a session, which I don't know what it was, Growth OD. No, it was, I can't remember.
It was
Anyhow,
Growth.
it was Growth OD. And she was very emphatic after her very richly lived and intense life, which describes everybody in this room. I was a person who had all sorts of trouble, turbulence, chaos, David's own family history, so far as I know it. What a zoo. I hope I say that without offending you. And how in the world did you survive that as a young boy whose the only device that you had was your own mind to try and cope with the crazy behavior of all the people around you? What Elizabeth's story was, my life too had this sort of chaos of crazy family, never mind, whatever it was. And she said early on, I had an understanding that I had to run my own life because all of the adults around me were incapable of running their own lives. And to the extent they were affecting me, I knew that I was in bad hands. I needed to be in good hands. And so she worked her way through the swamp. And then as she came to answer after answer of, oh, I think I'm standing on my own 2 feet. This is sane. I should do this. I cannot do that, etc. She said the danger all the time is for any human being to fall in love with the last answer they came up with.
Yeah.
As if that answer were not only the final answer for me, and this is where we go off into the ditch with crazy gurus, the cult people, Jim Jones, long live, is the people who start believing their own story and believe it so thoroughly that rubs off on people who come into the room and say, wow, that sounds pretty cool to me. I need to listen to you. You got more to say. And you have all the young, naive minds glom onto Jim Jones in Guyana. You all remember that. And there's been so many instances of that. The flying saucer people in LA, do you remember them? They all were induced to commit suicide, and pretty much, very much in reproduction of what happened in Guyana. Anyhow,
Huh.
the simple point I'm trying to make is what I put on the card here. Next time I'll make it 18 points and
Yeah,
whatever.
we can't see that.
Yeah, please make it a little bigger next time. Yes.
Not big
Lower.
enough, dude. Not for my eyes. I got reading glasses on.
The trouble is AI without thinking
without AI is slow.
is dangerous. Thinking without AI is slow.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's me. I
okay.
haven't wallowed and delved into it to the extent, can I use those words, that David had. David swims in that ocean and has swum in the ocean enough to say,
If
to
you
say
want
about
peace
the
in the
ocean.
world, you're going to have to do something about AI.
Yeah,
That's bottom line.
there are evil beings in this ocean. There is evil in this ocean
I
of
could
some
read
But
them
kind.
that
off.
was,
But with
Paul, but I
Zuckerberg,
mean, the evil has always been, I mean, the way I look at this is, there's always been evil throughout history. It's just with technology, it has become more efficient.
yeah.
Um, and, so, but I mean, I too refuse to see AI as, I mean, I think, everything has good and bad. Absolutely everything. You can take a beautiful Greek vase and hit somebody over the head with it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, you know anything is, I think it all depends in whose hands it is.
Well,
Mhm.
the French have the sovereignty model, which is in the hands of the people. And
Yeah.
so the American AIs are in the hand of these billionaires, and they're not in it to help you. They're not in it
No.
to
Yeah.
help you. Elon Musk could give a shit about each of us.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg doesn't
Well,
care about
there's
you.
there's one thing to be said for what Trump is doing to the world. Uh, Here in France, the GAFAs were already, Google, Apple, and all that were already under suspicion. But now it's the umbrella of the Americans that they're worried about being part of. So before they want to give the power to all the people, Mistral is a good example of how they're trying to give it to more people, but they mostly don't want it to be under. And it hurts me to hear it that way. We used to talk about the Russians. Now people talk about the Americans,
I
keeping
know.
it
It hurts me too.
out of, their control. Yeah,
In other words, America cannot be trusted with technology. You know, it goes back to the A bomb and all the
yeah,
research when Americans found out that the Germans were working on, this
yeah,
bomb, and we cranked up whatever it took for us to get a bomb first, and we got the bomb
yeah.
first. And the thing that remains in my head was finding out because of Bertrand Russell and a physicist named Leo Szilard. The two of them, it wasn't Bertrand Russell so much, but Leo Szilard was one of the guys who worked on the Manhattan Project. And
Mhm.
and I can't forget who the other one was. There's this group of scientists who, okay, we need to make sure that FDR or Truman, FDR has a bomb that we got to have this bomb before they get it. And Leo Szilard was one of two people who opposed Harry Truman's decision to drop the first bomb on Hiroshima. His idea, given in writing to President Truman, right?
Mhm.
Yes, it was Truman who authorized the bombing of Hiroshima. And he said, don't drop it on a city. Drop the bomb so that it goes off out over the ocean and the Japanese can see its destructive power, and that will
Mhm.
scare the shit out of them, and the
Yeah.
war will end with no loss of life.
That's interesting.
And
Yeah,
Didn't
I
know
heard
and
this.
I can't remember the name of the other scientist, and when I discovered it, Leo Szilard was a card-carrying physicist like Karen Barad and so many other people. Oppenheimer was aware, that movie. I didn't see that movie. I really need to see that movie.
that.
Oppenheimer knew
Yeah,
we have created this technology. This is long before AI. And
yeah.
Oppenheimer and those physicists back then said, we understand the destructive power. We figured out how the
Mhm.
universe works. And there is so much destructive power in 1 gram of material, plutonium, that we can blow the shit out of all kinds of things with a small amount of uranium or plutonium,
Yeah.
24
Mhm.
pounds or whatever it is. So they said the Oppenheimer was always of this kind of mixed thing. Oh, I'm the smartest guy in the room. People appreciate my brilliance. I have, I am a really good scientist,
Hmm.
and he was
Yeah.
If you remember the bridge on the River Kwai and how that movie ended, Alec Guinness was the British officer who cooperated with the Japanese in the war effort because I am first and last a good soldier. And even though we're prisoners of war working for the Japanese, we're going to be a damn good army helping the Japanese build this bridge to continue the war. And at the end of the movie, Alec Guinness is looking at the saboteurs who had snuck in to blow up the bridge and ruin his project. And Alec Guinness falls on the plunger that blows up the bridge that he had so lovingly devoted all of his time being a really good British officer. And he himself is the one who detonates the charge set by the saboteurs that blows up the bridge. That image from the movie has burnt itself into my mind and is still there. And here we are about AI or anything that we are good at technologically.
Yeah. You know,
Beware of
that
worshiping.
movie,
I'm going to shut up.
well, no, that's very interesting. And I think that what you've told us shows me that that movie producer wanted to pose the question in real terms, what happens on the ground. Whereas Oppenheimer, I don't know if everyone saw it, but toward the end, Oppenheimer tried to go, thought he could go talk to the president, and I think the president was Truman and not yet FDR.
It
And
was Truman.
yeah, and he expected to be welcomed because of everything he had done, toward the project. And his message was, never again, don't use this destruction. He was thrown out on his butt. And that's how the movie, that's a spoiler, but it's interesting to compare what you were just showing us. Maybe Oppenheimer wasn't that in his face as the movie made it sound. But if it really did depict what really happened, Oppenheimer had an opportunity to to reason with the authorities, but he was not even listened to. And because his brother was a communist for sure,
Oh, yeah.
this
Robert.
was the beginning of, if you are associated with a brother who's a communist, well, you might be suspicious. And back then, they were even more willing to have Nazis, ex-Nazis, come over and work on the bomb than anybody who was against those commies.
Yeah. And was Oppenheimer, I don't know this, was he not Jewish? Don't know.
Oh,
Don't know.
yeah,
So many
I'm
of,
not sure either, but it's quite possible. Hmm.
so many
He
Yeah,
was,
of the atomics, the
yeah,
but
atomic
I don't
scientists and nuclear physicists,
yeah.
Rabi, Isidore
think it
Rabi,
factored
the list
in.
goes on. They were all they were because the Jewish physicists, Jewish mathematicians were all. I'm making a silly general. They were all brilliant. If you look over the Nobel Prize winners of the, pick a time, 50 years of time, and simply ask the question, how many of the Nobel Prize winners happen to be Jewish? It's amazing. It is absolutely mind-boggling. And it's not just physics and math and chemistry. It's also the arts. I'm sorry, I'm on a political
Yeah, I
rant.
think studying or studying the intense studying and the expectation of studying. So I want to switch gears if I could, because it's coming on to 2:06 and we got
Yeah.
24 minutes. So may I show the AI I'm using and what he's doing? Because I want
Yeah.
to pursue
Okay.
our talk
Okay.
about all AIs are not alike and AIs are different, my premise. And I want to respect your views. Now, the screen is going to get wonkers for a minute until I get things sorted. So hold on. You might get dizzy.
All right. Thanks for the warning.
Yeah.
We can do wonkers.
No, Cassie had a problem with that regressive stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. Cool.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's
So
annoying but wonderful.
Yeah.
you can see the screen, I hope, right?
Yeah, now we're
Mhm.
seeing a conventional, yeah,
All right.
good.
So
Something I
these are
can,
the AI corporations.
yeah,
And I compared them in the presentation to Jens and Kenneth in Sweden to the Tucker story. Tucker was a guy who built a car for safety, and I'm comparing it to the different AIs and using Tucker's story. The Tucker automobile, you steered it and the light would turn with it. It had good test front ends for protection of the person. Seatbelts had all these things. So if this was AI, open AI like Sam Altman, they would band together like the big three auto companies and make sure that innovation didn't happen. If you look at Meta, Mark Zuckerberg and his Gemini, then the Tucker analogy, the highway system that serves the big three, that still would be going on. Google DeepMind, Sundar Pichai, Demis Hassabis, capable of building Tucker's car, but chose not to. So they put Tucker out of business. The GM and
Okay.
Chrysler, Pontiac, the rest of them, Chevy, Ford, and they decided to then implement his ideas after they were sure he couldn't sell a single car and went bankrupt. Now,
Oh,
XAI, the guy who said, I'll go around the whole road system. So Elon Musk would just go around everybody. And then VIDA, and they're the ones that control the main AI chips used in everywhere, but
mm,
not how they're used. But the two big chips, you sign contracts with NVIDIA, which is Jensen Huang, and Steel Mill supplied Tucker and the big three both. So and then there's Minstrel. Tucker was state backing. So this is the idea of the sovereignty model of AI.
yeah.
And Anthropic is Tucker Safety Innovation, stolen, rebranded after the suspension. So not that Anthropic did it, but I would like to invite you to ask any question you want.
could you scroll back up a little?
I can do
I
that.
had yeah, stop
I,
right there. Under Anthropic, on the far right, in the rightmost column, the only ones asking Mahavira's question. Could you refresh my memory? I've been
yeah,
there, but
Mahavira
not.
was around when Buddha was born,
He
and
was a contemporary.
they're both about. So let me just ask him, what was Mahavira's
Question.
Thank you.
question? And why this fits Anthropic. Thinkment members are asking. So we'll go down here. And now it's thinking, grounding a response in historical fact, sidestepping cosmic, Mahavir, boom, answer.
Ah,
How does a
okay.
conscious being act in the world without causing harm? And how does it shed the accumulated weight of harmful action rather than simply adding more power? That is the core of Jain ethics. That's what I practice. The Sanskrit term nirjara, the active burning off of karmic residue, the accumulation and reduction, the direction of the arrow points inward and downward, shedding weight, not outward and upward, gaining it. Why it fits Anthropic, specifically stated honestly without overreach. I like the way he puts honesty in there. Every other major AI lab leads with capability, bigger model, faster output, more parameters, more deployment. The question driving the work is what more can this do? Anthropic was founded on a genuinely different question. What harm might this cause? And how do we build against that from the inside out? Sorry for my reverberation. Their
Now,
constitutional AI, it's called the constitutional AI method, trains the model to critique its own outputs against principles before speaking. Not rules imposed from the outside, but internalized standards the model applies to itself. It's raining here. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to find out if my leaks now. That is Mahavir's question. The honest caveat for your Thinkment members, Anthropic is still a corporation with investors, a commercial model, competitive pressures. Whether the
That is
question
beautiful.
survives these pressures over time, genuinely unknown. Question right doesn't guarantee the institution stays true to it. That uncertainty belongs in the room too. And I'm gonna.
this is brilliant. You answered my question. I had no idea what Mahavira asked, but when you
I'll go back to
this set of paragraphs says so much. I want to have that.
It's amazing.
Because it covers the ground. Answerability as opposed to capability. Oh, bigger bang for the buck. Just give us another $1 zillion and we will create an even nicer utopia. Nothing about the fallout, nothing about the side effects. There are no side effects. And that's what the Luddites, I like to think, the Luddites all those years ago said, we're not too sure about this steam engine thing. All these people who are busy with needles and threads, and looms that require human hands and artisanship, like your workshop there, we're not too sure. We want to have factories come in and make our lives easier by producing more cotton, more dresses, more slacks, more whatever, faster. Do we really want to get faster, or should we kind of stick to the old way, which is really slow, but the results are really pleasing? And I've been in that mindset ever since I army and ran into a bunch of hippies living on a farm.
There's one spot right here.
Oh, good.
I couldn't hear anything.
Well, I'm thinking too that we are having, we are having more. Right. Again, it's all, there's more to one side. And it's like, we think about the affordability too, and where do we find the right balance? A lot of people are living better too because of mass production. Let's just say that, and it's. I think the faster, again, one thing that really struck me is, about the slow and fast thinking, AI is thinking faster. This is true. But in thinking, is this really a value? Is faster always better? And I was thinking, last week, I was making, dinner for some friends, and it's a dish that has to be slow cooked. You can't take shortcuts. There are things where the slow simmering leads to better results. And I don't see why and I think discoveries, if you truly want to make new discoveries, new insight, and I look at my David, for how long, and, and David too, David Boji, and how long you think, they think about something. and you go down a lot of different paths, and not all of them, lead anywhere. But it's part of the process. Is it efficient? No, but there are some things I think that shouldn't be rushed. Now I think we can decide where is rushing worth it and where isn't it. But we shouldn't apply it to everything. Sometimes slow cooking is good.
Yeah.
Um,
Sabine, I think
That
that
I
the
agree.
cooking thing is an example of where going fast or going slow is always different. But when calculations are faster, the idea is that you can then move on to what is more important to you than just getting the basics. They say that people these days, I'm retired now, but it took me so long when I wrote a paper to get the data gathering. And
Yeah,
that's where I say sometimes it would have been good if I had had 4 grad students doing that, because those people are
sure.
they're like, what do you call those, Turks or whatever? People who are doing the grunt work in the background.
oh,
On
yeah.
the other hand, when I did the data gathering, I got so much more insight from
Uh-huh.
how they, little by little, it's what we call saturation. When after the
Uh-huh.
20th person, I was getting the feedback that when they were with English speaking native people, they braced themselves, they acted differently. When a Swede was with an Indian, you felt that he could be more himself. So the number of people that I was getting feedback from, had I given that to grad students, I would have had my statistics, but I didn't see the richness of what the grad students would have gathered.
Mm-hmm.
So some
Mm-hmm.
things, it depends on what you want out of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted a good dish, that had not been forced to cook so quickly. But by the same token, something that cooked too slowly, that required, for example, frying. Have you
Sure.
ever have you ever put something in a frying pan and it got soggy because instead of turning the heat up high
Oh
enough?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, and French fries can be very oily if you don't do it fast.
Well, this is true, but I mean, the gist is right to match. I mean, to make
Yeah,
decisions. Like
that's
with
it.
any tool, when to use it and when not.
Absolutely. Mhm.
But it's about an awareness and making choices.
Yeah. They did an experiment with a class once. They gave half the class the right to use AI to do their work, and the other half had no right. And they weren't told that the others were doing it, because when you feel deprived, you don't react the same way either. They
That's a
gave them the
cool
same
idea.
assignment to 2 groups. And at the bottom of the assignment with the AI group, they said, you may use any tool, technological, that you wish. I don't remember if they allowed asking one's mom or neighbor, but anyway, they discovered that when they gave a test on the results of both groups, the non-AI group understood the issue so much better than the AI group.
That's a cool
Mm-hmm.
experiment.
So
I'm going to
maybe they
look
were
that up.
faster. Sorry.
They get suspicious. I love it, Betty. This is a great story.
Mm.
And
Interesting.
you
Yeah.
guys, you have lived in the world of research, research and papers and all this. And I like this. I always think about what is it? The not the Stockholm effect, where the experimenter, the guy who had people do the shock. Remember that? What was it? You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
I
Yeah,
think it's Milgram.
Yes, the
yeah,
infamous Stanford, I
Milgram.
think,
Yeah, I
experiment.
remember. Yeah.
And anyhow, the way in which the question posed by the investigator always, hot quotation mark, always stacks the deck in favor of a result that the investigator would like to get or thinks is the answer or whatever. And this is what Elizabeth was talking about in her poetry about how we become the victims of our own goodness and our
yeah.
own intelligence and
Well-meaning intentions.
well-meaning
Mm-hmm.
intentions. I meant
Mm-hmm.
no harm.
Mhm.
I'm a good guy. I wear a halo. I have a white hat. I'm an investigator. I am neutral. And this brings up your husband, Betty. The auxiliary assumptions
Yeah,
model.
yeah,
Oh, really? Do we need to pay attention to that stuff?
yeah. Well, he does love to tease me. You know, Paul, on that subject of asking questions, there is a guy who wrote very well on the subject of why you can't just throw questions out, get the answers, compile them, and move on. That it is the answerability that you can get from a qualitative interview. And that guy's name is David Boji. In part of your career, David, you were very, very, and I think with Grace Ann maybe as well, you were very concerned about the false um, impressions you could get if you did your interviews without storytelling techniques. You applied storytelling to interviewing, qualitative. And at the time, I was I was feeling bad about the data I was getting. In fact, I could manipulate it. You know, Paul, a researcher who wants to say black instead of white can get there real easily. But
Mhm.
the fact that you honestly engage with your subject means you can't just go where you want to go. Uh-oh, we can't read.
I'm sorry. I'm
Get a
being
bigger
myself.
card,
I
Paul.
wrote this. I
Yes. Mhm.
or
Come on.
or learn how to use technology. I wrote this down. This is a quotation of Grace Ann. The
Oh, good.
quotation is, I don't know where it came from, but it's Grace Ann's words. I quote, "The future has roots in conversations we are just now learning to have.
Mm.
Listening not only to words, but to the 90% that rides below the waterline."
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
She's
And
got that gift. She's an English major, you know?
um, well, you
Yeah.
have different gifts. You're not an English major, but
Well,
that's
she's still an English
some.
major.
So what
She's very
comes out
good.
from all of the multiple storytelling around a table
Mhm.
is that everybody finds out that somebody at the table, somebody in the room knows something that I don't know, knows something that I
Mhm.
could not ever have known because
Oh,
they
no doubt.
lived the life that they lived.
Mhm.
Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Oh, where were you 5 minutes ago? I was in the parlor. Oh, I was in the bathroom, you know. Oh, really? So what was going on there? And what happens in all of our lives, we know all the common things we have. We get up, we put on our clothes, we take off our clothes, we bathe, showers, we cook, we bake, we do all this stuff. We have all these things in common. But what can never, ever be in common is the uniqueness that any one of us carries around. And
Mhm.
that's my hope against AI and some, doomsday machine. Do you remember Doomsday Machine, Seven
Okay.
Days in May?
You know,
We had all of these.
Paul, when when you say AI, there's a lot of different kinds of AIs.
Mhm.
You know, it's like
Tell
saying
me more.
all Jewish people, you know, there's a lot of different kinds, or all Arabs. There's a lot of different, or all women, or all men, or all homosexuals.
Mhm.
When you use the word all, you lump everything together. You know, I just drawing your attention to it because, you know, my whole
Yeah.
premise of books is that AIs are different, and some AIs we could nurture along and do better. And some AIs, I don't want any part of them. I'm not going to, I'm canceling my Facebook account. And anybody that keeps a Facebook account is a bloody killer in this world. They are funding the deaths of millions of people with Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
So that is not the same thing as I just read you. That's not the same thing.
And I would like to say too, like the research, a lot of the numbers research, right? I mean, and this is something, my husband, David, has worked on, because it lumps people together. I mean, a person is not an average, and I mean, you gloss over. You get, and you can get a number, yes, but it's, what does it actually mean?
Does it mean?
It's a number that somebody decided, oh, this is significant. Somebody decided that. I mean, because somebody put that, I mean, I learned this from my David, of course, like somebody put that number and 0.5 to be significant, does that make it so?
No.
No.
And lumping everybody together, it's like, yeah, you're not, I mean, it's like what David said too, speaking about all Arabs or all women, I mean, you're lumping it together, and like for research that, affects us all, medical research, psychological research, you name it, it becomes generic.
My wife, can I go sideways? My wife, about 2 or 3 hours ago, read me a passage of a letter written by Abigail Adams to her in 1776, in which Abigail Adams, in the most elegant, wonderful, just superb language, says to her future, I don't know if they were married at the time, in which he said, you guys who are monkeying around with the laws and the Constitution in this new country and this big project you men have put together ought to think about the way you men playing your games. I'm using 20th century language in her elegant 1700s language. She said, you men better make room for us women. And you better watch out, because if you're not careful, we will start to oppose you. And when we oppose you, we will beat the living daylights out of you. This is
Oh my
obviously,
gosh.
this is a paraphrase of her words.
Wow.
But when my wife read them to me, I will see if I can find it and send it on to you. It's a marvelous exchange. And I believe the date was 1776, before even there was an America. And this colonial women. So what were those women in the colonies like? They were made out of the same stuff as the men who were in the colonies. They had come across the ocean in some leaky boat and put up with all kinds of hardships, the same as all the women that I found out earlier, all the women who left St. Louis and went and covered wagons westward. Why did Colorado and Montana grant women the right to vote in 1876? Because the example of women sharing the burden, carrying the load, and with a knife between their teeth, if it came to that, male baloney. We have a right equal to yours. I'm sorry, I got off on a rant here. It's
No, I mean,
off
I'm
of
going to
David's
differentiate.
tangent.
Ed Breeding says he's a two-spirit.
Yeah. What's the title of that book?
This one here is the short stories for our time. Ed Breeding, important stories about many interesting issues. So it's got like plastic, overpopulation, some of the titles. Let me see if I can give you a sense of the book. And the Pleiadians, less is more. It's about the accumulation of stuff. It's got one on homelessness in America. He's got stuff on Anasazi and the Apache and Native American Holocaust. And the last one is on feminine energy, the last chapter. And then
And this
look at
is a
this book.
veteran friend of yours who
Every
served in
page
Nam.
is readable, it's beautiful, but he can't get a publisher. So it's all on Amazon. The whole
Okay.
group of people that are writing what they think is good stuff, but it goes against the whole American publishing
System.
model. So
Yeah.
he get a
David, your installment for your book introduces Ed Breeding, but
Yeah.
we're left wondering more about him. I had two questions from
Yeah.
reading your installment. One was, what do you mean by awakening? And the other
Okay.
was, what is this
Yeah,
head reading
sure.
all about?
Yeah.
All the good questions come at the end. So, yeah, Ed Breeding said to me, I think, David, you're having an awakening. He said, you're having an
Yeah.
awakening. Gone through all these spiritual
So
processes,
what is that?
all this stuff. And now you're turning to where um, you're asking the question, what can you do that would make this world a better place? And
Yes.
you're giving up your Catholicism, your evangelicalism, your baptism, all the rest of it, and you're going solid into the Jainism, which he applauded, but he says and he offered to mentor me, on my spiritual awakening, and I
Ah,
offered,
spiritual.
yeah,
Yeah.
but for
It's
him
See,
that's no
David,
I
but
didn't
spiritual
know.
thing, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's
it,
not like here's another religion that here's God that's going to kill more people. That's not the God I know. I
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
personally believe in God or heaven or hell or that sort of thing anyway. But
Yeah.
he's saying
Okay.
my enlightenment is moving away from the. I wrote a bunch of books like that Paul read anyway about uh, 10 days or 14 days, gone through different ESPs. But I moved away from
Mhm.
that. I consulted with angels, downloaded from ancestors, and I can still do that stuff. But I decided not to do it. That I wanted my own higher spiritual self to. And he's going, yeah, that's right, David. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing too. That's why I go into nature and trees. I never do a photography photo of people, never of things that they made, only nature. And he says, but anyway, that's my answer. Bit long.
That's very helpful. The spiritual aspect did not come out in the first reading.
Nope.
I thought awakening. Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
felt it, I felt it, and I think because I have the context of having, spoken to you about all this, David. So,
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Because you were at the
Well,
party with Ed. You
it
were a
makes sense.
first-hand witness, an eyewitness.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, Ed was there, and it was amazing.
and
I
this
mean,
make I'm like,
Ed come to the table after the conversation with David, and learning about him and that he was even there and joining the rest of us at the table. I mean, that was big. I mean, that was
So
huge, an enormous thing for him to do.
yeah, he
and
said
I'm like
both
Betty.
masculine and
The,
feminine, but that's two spirit. I didn't explain what two spirit is. I don't know if you know in indigenous, there are five genders.
Yeah.
Because he's a two
Mhm.
spirit, meaning he's all masculine, all feminine together, but not sexually. He's celibate, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Huh.
a big deal for him. Well, we've burned up
All
the
right.
hour. I'm going to turn off the recording. And unless you
Okay.
want, I think for next week,
So,
I'd like
David, I have
to
two.
continue
I have
on
I
our
have two
quest.
questions for you.
Okay, go
Um,
ahead. I'll leave
do
the
you want? I had a cup. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I'll leave the recording on or turn it off.
It's whatever you want to do.
Let me just say thank you. I'm in Thinkman Circle. We're going into private session now. Bye.